It's been over 40 years since the events of Miss Universe 1982 transpired. Miss Universe was in its 30th year, and it had been 5 years since South Africa last won Miss Universe in 1978 through Margaret Gardner. 18-year-old Odette Octavia Scrooby had been selected to represent South Africa at Miss Universe. Usually Miss Republic of South Africa would go to Miss Universe, but the Miss World organization had already banned South Africa from competing in 1978 due to apartheid. I have many videos on the history of South Africa at both Miss World and Miss Universe, but be warned, as ever, politics has had a huge effect on the world of pageantry, especially in South Africa and with regards to South Africa at international pageants. Odette wasn't the only South African woman competing at Miss Universe 1982, however. As you know, apartheid. Long story short, Miss Universe was willing to make exceptions for South Africa and send non-white contestants from Bantustans. Bantustans, or homelands, were geographical areas set aside in certain parts of South Africa for different tribes and other ethnicities to live. This was done to keep races from mixing too much, of course. There were many Bantustans in both South Africa and modern-day Namibia, which South Africa had control over back then. But one that competed in multiple Miss Universe competitions was the Transkei. Transkei was a Bantustan set aside for the Xhosa people, and Mxolisi Nji was the third woman to represent the Transkei at Miss Universe. Neither of her predecessors had placed, and unfortunately, neither would she. So why am I telling you this? I mean, it's widely accepted that Odette's non-placement in the top 5 at Miss Universe 1982 was due to either a computer error or a judge mistyping her score. However mundane the possibility of that being the reason is probable, but I don't know, for me it also is equally probable that the decision to exclude her was political and it was just cloaked under the guise of a computer error or a judge punching in the wrong number. Like I mentioned before, Miss World had banned South Africa in 1978 due to apartheid, only for South Africa to win Miss Universe 1978 and be crowned by the first black winner of Miss Universe, no less. Miss World had attempted to accommodate South Africa's apartheid regime by allowing one white woman and one black woman from South Africa, the latter being known as Miss Africa South, which is probably just one step above Miss Universe's Bantustan idea on the scale of idiocy. The amount of exceptions that Miss World and Miss Universe made back then in order to accommodate South Africa's apartheid regime is honestly staggering. But after a few years, Miss World had to accept the fact that they had to ban South Africa and join the world in their boycott of South Africa in order to try and force the South African government to stop enforcing apartheid. Miss Universe didn't get the memo though, but after 1978 they would be careful not to let South Africa get too close to the crown. In 1979, the only year that Bophuthatswana, which is another Bantustan, competed alongside Transkei and the official South African contestant, Veronica Wilson entered the finals ranking 3rd after the prelims but was not crowned as a runner-up. Back then there were 4 because she placed 6th. Coincidence? I don't know, maybe, but it's interesting. In 1980, South Africa was denied a visa to the host country of South Korea because South Korea was firmly against apartheid, and in 1981 South Africa didn't place at all. Deserved? Maybe. Again, something to keep in mind as we enter 1982. In 1982, South Africa has a bombshell contestant representing them. She had the highest average score after prelims. Back then, Miss Universe actually showed the scores. She was number 1 and a real threat for the crown. But then came the swimsuit competition. Inconceivably, Odette received a dismal score, ranking her 10th. This was very shocking. It made no sense that the same judges who gave her the highest points in the preliminary swimsuit competition would suddenly rank her so low. To add insult to injury, Odette was ranked 1st in the evening gown competition, meaning that she would have won or at least placed in the top 5 had her swimsuit score been higher. Many who believed the judge's error and computer glitch theory also believed that this is the primary reason that Miss Universe later adopted the rule that the highest and lowest scores in any judging segment would be automatically discounted, as to make sure that outlier scores do not intensely affect final scores. In 1983, neither Miss South Africa nor Miss Transkei placed. After 5 years of competing but never placing for women representing the Transkei, they opted out of Miss Universe 1984. Interestingly, in 1984, South Africa would come closer to the crown than they had in years when Letitia Snyman placed as the first runner-up. I find it really suspicious that the Miss Universe organization denied any of the women representing South Africa, both as the official South Africa representative or women from Transkei or that 1 year from Bophuthatswana. They denied all of them entry into the top 5 from 1979 to 1983. But the moment that the Transkei quit and there was no longer that other South African presence at Miss Universe, suddenly South Africa gets first runner-up. But weird. Anyway, at this point, so many people were done with South Africa not abolishing apartheid, to be honest, and were actually protesting at Miss Universe 1984 due to South Africa's continual participation. I mean, Miss Bahamas actually withdrew altogether because South Africa was there. For this reason, the Miss Universe organization finally banned South Africa after 1984. I don't know. I would love to believe the theory about it just being a computer glitch or a judge punching in the wrong number. Honestly, something within me just feel like, obviously, some things that happened to South Africa at Miss Universe, especially at Miss Universe 1982, might have been politically motivated. But this was 40 years ago, okay? I think a lot of people are just sort of over it, including Odette herself. But I have received so many DMs and emails asking me to discuss exactly this. And at first I thought to myself, I mean, what is there to discuss? As, you know, it was a shocking thing for Odette not to place in the top 5 after having literally the highest scores after prelims and then having the number 2 place after interview and then having number 1 in gown and then just having this dismal swimsuit score after having like the best swimsuit scores in prelims. Absolutely insane. It was shocking, but from what I understood and from what everybody was saying online, it was just a computer glitch. It was just a computer error. It was just perhaps a judge punching in the wrong number and then nobody wanted to correct that because they don't want to pull a Steve Harvey and have to apologize and take the crown away from someone else, potentially. But the more I thought about it and the more I started doing my videos on South Africa's history at pageantry and at Miss Universe and at Miss World, I started to realize this was the 80s. And South Africa was being sort of boycotted around the world. And this might have been part of that. But then, of course, Letitia's 1984 first runner-up placement confused matters a bit. But then I realized that she only placed as the first runner-up once, you know, the Transkei quit. And I just feel like a person wearing a tinfoil hat at this point. I might be completely off the mark, but I need you to tell me, what do you think about Odette Scrooby's non-placement in the Miss Universe top 5 in 1982? I know a lot of older South African pageant fans are still dumbfounded by this non-placement in the top 5. I mean, she could have definitely been the second Miss Universe from South Africa, but I do honestly think that in the 80s, having a South African Miss Universe would not fly with the public, and that would have brought a lot of negative attention to the Miss Universe brand. So even if Odette had entered the top 5, yeah, I don't think that she would have been able to be crowned because it would have been such a controversial decision. And as much as Miss Universe likes to pretend that they don't get into politics that much, honestly, if the non-political decision is going to bring terrible publicity upon their brand, I can promise you that they won't crown. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think that Odette was left out of the top 5 on purpose in order to make sure that she doesn't potentially win and harm the Miss Universe brand? Let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't already, please subscribe and I will see you in the next one. Bye!